thinking about, you know, how excited I should be after the outcome yesterday. But I think quite a few people have found this. I'm not the only one. But after the psych evaluation yesterday, you're just talking, you know, a lot about your past and what you've been through and traumatic events, and just, I think it's been playing on my mind, so I thought I'd do a quick video about my journey. Obviously I can't put the whole of my 41 years on this earth in the space of 5 minutes, so I'd have to condense it quite a bit, but just so that you get the gist of what I've been through and how I've got to this point. So yesterday actually I came across something that I've never really thought of before, even though I have had therapy nearly the whole of my adult life, when she was talking about past things that have led up to my depression. And she asked me the first time that I really noticed any kind of depression, which would have been when I was 17 and I just broke up with my boyfriend, which was my first love. I think a lot of women will relate to that I was feeling completely and utterly heartbroken, like I would never get over it, and this is the worst pain that I'll ever go through in my life. But something that I seem to have blocked out for some reason, I'm not really sure why, is that shortly after that we broke up I got glandular fever, and I really didn't think much about it because I've had tonsillitis so many times in my life, and you know, you have some antibiotics, it clears it up, but that really affects your mental health, some chemical imbalance or something, I don't know. That the doctor told me then that, you know, this could affect my depression for the next 6 months, a year, or even possibly life. And I was doing a little bit of research last night, and actually quite a few people that have had that, it has led into like ME or MS. So I think that I put this big huge thing onto me, that, you know, all of it was to do with the breakup, and that significantly meant something that I held on to for the rest of my life, and that maybe it had something more to do with the glandular fever. I don't really know, I'm just rambling now. But the second, well, 2 years after that, when I was 19, I met my husband, which was a real turning point, because I just found that his personality just calmed me a lot. I'm kind of heart on my sleeve, tell you, is kind of person, and he's more reserved and things close to his chest. I just found that his calming nature just soothed me a lot. But I got married when, well, we got married when I was 21, and I moved country because he's from Belgium and I've lived my whole life in London, and I just found it really, really hard because I left my family behind and my friends and my job, which I absolutely loved. I was a nanny working for an American family. Well, she was American, he was Canadian, and I felt it really hard leaving that behind because I fell in love with those kids. They meant the world to me, and I've gone from a place where, I guess London's pretty much like New York, not that I've ever been to New York, but you can just get anywhere you want to go at any time of the day via bus, tube, train or whatever. So very independent life, to live in the middle of nowhere where there was a limitation on public transport. I had to rely on my husband to take me anywhere I wanted to go in the car, but then he was all day at work with the car, and I just felt really isolated and depressed. And then I don't want to go too much into it because it's not just involving me, but involves so many people, and it's on YouTube, so obviously everyone can watch it. But he did delve into his past and the abusive childhood that he had, which impacted me really badly. I think I was so young. I was 21, but I was a young 21. And my childhood was not really the best that it could be. Not that it was any shape or means what he'd been through, but my mother had also been through an abusive childhood and suffered with depression and was an extremely overly emotional person, that I felt that there was no room for me and my brother to have any sort of emotions whatsoever, that we had to kind of bury them somewhere deep inside, because the house was just overflowing with all my mother's emotions. And at some point I really felt that I took on the motherly role. So I think once my husband had told me what he'd been through, without him pushing me in any shape or form to do that, I felt that I also felt I had to take on the motherly role with him and somehow try and fix and correct his past. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I had my firstborn, my daughter, while I was there, and I got really bad postnatal depression to the point that I tried to take my own life. And yeah, that would be probably the lowest point of my life. And them 2 years that I lived there was horrific and traumatic, and I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. But I did, actually the first year that I lived there, my weight really went up. So I think that was the first sign of my binge eating disorder really kicked in, because my wedding dress was a size 14, which is a UK size 14, so that'd be a 12 in the States. And by the end of the year I was a size 22, which would have been, which is a 20 for you guys, which is a awful lot of weight to put on in a year. So I was obviously miserable, but that's the way I dealt with it. When I came back to the UK and we settled in here, things just seemed to get better, and I lost quite a lot of weight. But then I had my second child 4 years later. Sorry, he's 14 now, my daughter's 18. And postnatal depression kicked in again. I was put on medication again. I had therapy again. I put on a lot of weight again, and then everything seemed to get better gradually. And then 6 years after that, I had my third child, who's 8 now, and my postnatal depression kicked in again. I went back on medication again. I had therapy again, and then slowly but surely I started to get better. Now, the way the therapy works here in the UK, because it's on the NHS, which means it's free, is that you get 12 weeks, 1 hour a week, and then it ends. And then if you don't feel you need any more, that's fine. If you want more, you go back on the waiting list, which is about 3 to 6 months, and then you get another 12 weeks. Now, obviously, they can't guarantee you that you see the same person, so you can see a whole bunch of people, which I did. So if your story's like this long, you seem to get halfway through, and then it ends, and then you meet someone else, and then you start from the beginning again, and you get halfway through, and you never get to the end. So even though it was helpful, as in there was someone there to listen to, and they say problem shared is a problem halved, but I just felt we wasn't getting anywhere, as in we wasn't dissecting things and getting to the root of the problem, and no one ever made any connection to my weight or binge eating disorder or anything like that. Now, 4 years ago, so I was 37 at the time, 4 years after my last child was born, I got in contact with my ex, the one that I broke up with when I was 17, through Facebook, and for the first time in my whole life I realised that our breakup wasn't directly from him, that it had a whole lot to do with my dad, and he kind of warned him away that I was too young, blah blah blah, etc etc. And I don't really know why. Well, actually I do know why, because we've dissected it in therapy and got to the root of it, but it's far too long and complicated to explain. That was a real trigger for me,